Matthews, Bree Houston, Ashton Rich. It's crunch time.
It's crunch time here in Clarksville, Tennessee. Jeff Matthews, Bree Houston, Ashton Rich, once again here in the studios of 91.9. Now, this is going to be our last show of this season, but then come spring, hopefully we can get this back, but a couple people might be graduating.
That's right. I got 16 in the wake-up, according to G.A. Joe.
G.A. Joe, one of our producers here, Joe Palmer, also graduating. The department is certainly going to miss Joe's talents as well as Bree's. It's going to be a little weird, especially in the spring, being the oldest person around here, I guess. It's going to be me and our other producer, Nathan, and a couple other people we're going to bring in. So it's definitely going to be different. It's going to be not as fun, maybe, and maybe more fun. We'll see. But we're certainly going to miss you guys. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely going to miss it. But save the date, December 11th, 9 o'clock in the morning. I would say everyone's welcome, but because of COVID, we only have 4 tickets. So watch live on YouTube.
There you go, right? I will say it's been so awesome being able to work with Ashton and then you, Bree, for the past couple years, and then Joe and Nathan and all them who kind of work behind the scenes. So, as Ashton said, it's going to be sad to see some of y'all leave, but it's also exciting to see where you guys end up. So that'll be a fun time to kind of celebrate, and we wish you all the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. I've had a blast these last 2 years, just being hands-on and being in the program. Barry and Steve, they've definitely made me stretch and get out of my comfort zone, and I've just learned a lot. And, I mean, you guys might see more of me. I might just pop up. You never know.
Well, you're more than welcome to come by the studios while we are still here. But let's go ahead and jump into some high school football. Now, for the Clarksville area, only 2 teams remained, I should say, in playoff contention, and that was Stewart County and Northeast. Pearl Cone took it to the house against Stewart County, 56-20. And then Henry County kind of put the beat down on Northeast, 39-7. So both teams in the Clarksville area that were left in the playoffs are now out. So football season is officially over for high school.
I know that it's not – you don't want to win. You don't want to lose these games, of course. You want to go as far as you can. Even though Northeast lost, they did a way better job this time than when they first played Henry County in the season. So you lost, but you can kind of celebrate like we didn't get blown out like we did the first time.
Yeah, and the first time was especially rough because you're coming off a bye week, right? And you would think coming off a bye week you've had 2 weeks to prepare, and you really want to play a little bit better than the previous showing that they had. But, all credit to Henry County. They're clearly one of the powers in in Tennessee in general, but specifically West Tennessee. And, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle and take care of business throughout the rest of the way. Same thing with Pearl Cone.
I mean, Pearl Cone is another one of those dominant teams in the Tennessee area. And, I mean, I think it's impressive that Stewart County put 20 up against them.
That's what I was also going to say. Stewart County is another team that can take a victory in their loss. Yes, you lost, but look how far you came.
Exactly. I mean, Will Page, the quarterback for Stewart County, he himself had, I think, a passing touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns, I think is what that headline read. I mean, just a strong athlete for Stewart County. I off the top of my head, I forget which year he is, but I think he has another year left, if I'm not mistaken, with Stewart County. And Stewart County was one of those teams, I've said it many times, it just surprised me in how well they were able to kind of handle this season. I definitely passed judgment on them at the beginning of the season when I went out to one of their games and watched their practices. But, man, they played some awesome football this year.
And you mentioned the youth of quarterbacks in the Clarksville, kind of Middle Tennessee area. Northeast High School, their starting quarterback's a sophomore. He's got 2 more years. Stewart County, we believe he's got 1 more year left. Clarksville High School, Davin Garinger, he's got 2 more years left. So just a lot of young talent at the quarterback position. Henry County, their quarterback's only a sophomore, and that's kind of a scary thought as well.
Yes, it
so
is.
You've got a lot of guys within the Clarksville area, within the region that are talented, and they've got years left.
Yeah, and when you're so young and you still have time to grow, you have time to create chemistry with your team, and you have time to grow as a team. And that when you become a team that has time together, you grow, and that's the type of chemistry and the type of team that can actually face another team and know how to defeat them because they've been there before. So it's all looking up, and I'm kind of excited to see where everything goes.
Yeah, it'll be a good time to watch, especially next season. Maybe COVID isn't around. Maybe it still will be. We just don't know what that's going to look like. But it'll be a fun season to watch. Nonetheless, especially teams who, maybe didn't do well this year in that offseason. A lot of things change. A lot of things move around. Maybe some of these teams who didn't do well this past season maybe kind of come up in the rankings and make Northeast really work for that top position in Clarksville. But let's go ahead and jump over into the SEC realm of the world. And I'm just going to start reading off the scores. Unfortunately, I do not have a graphic this week. I forgot to get the information over to our graphic designer. But let me go ahead and I'll just read off the scores for you. Florida took down Vanderbilt 38-17. LSU took down Arkansas 27-24. Alabama really stomped on Kentucky 63-3. Tennessee takes a loss against Auburn 30-17. Missouri takes down South Carolina 17-10, and then Georgia takes down Mississippi State 31-24. I mean, once again, we have to talk about Kentucky going up against Alabama. One is always a fate for any team. Kentucky, we have kind of hyped up the past few weeks. What happened during this game?
Well, I think it was just a case of the better program showed why it's the better program. I mean, like, no disrespect to Kentucky, Mark Stoops is running an excellent program, and that it's on the rise. But they're not Alabama. They're probably not going to be Alabama very soon. But I think it was just a case of like Alabama they obviously Nick Saban was mad in practice all week because he took it out on Kentucky on Saturday, and it's just another showing that Alabama's transitioned from one of these teams that just beats you to death on defense to a team that's going to hang 60 on you and be happy with it. So. I think it's interesting to see Alabama kind of evolve from that strong run game and defense to a team that's got a great passing game and a good complementary run game with a decent defense as well. And then speaking on Kentucky, it was kind of their offense is centered around the run game. They don't throw very well. They've got 3 or 4 running backs and a running quarterback that are all very good, and that kind of plays into what Alabama's good against on defense. So I never really had high hopes for Kentucky in this one.
We talked about this, though. Coming up, we said when Alabama plays Kentucky, it's going to be horrible.
Yes.
We called it. Everyone knew it. It's no secret. But for games like this, if you're going in as a player playing a team like Alabama or you're a coach, what are you really trying to get out of the game? You don't want to tell the players, like, we lost this game before you go in. That's horrible. You don't want to kill their confidence. But maybe there's something that you can work on or something that you can see in Alabama and maybe try out different plays or different defensive schemes. I don't really know, like, when you're facing a team like Alabama and you're Kentucky.
And games like that is where you find the real dogs in your program, right? You're down 60-3, you're losing, there's no hope of coming back. Who are your guys that are still playing hard and are still playing to the whistle? That's where you find the guys that every coach loves. I know it's kind of a cliche that, play to the final whistle and all that stuff, but coaches love those guys because those guys, they may not be talented. Heck, they may not even be good, but they play hard. And so just a lot of coaches, that's all that matters is if you can play hard and you will be coachable, I can make you into the player I need you to be.
So that's interesting that you say that because this past week I was at a basketball game over in Cheatham County, and we were talking to the head coach, and that was kind of what he said. He said I could have some of the best basketball players out on the court, but if they're not a team player, or if they don't know what we're trying to do with our program, I don't want them on the court. And I think that kind of really relates to that, what you just said right there. If I have a player out there who is, walking to his position, acting, above what is happening, or acting in a way that does not shine a light on the program, I don't want him on the field. That's just my opinion. But I think coaches have an opportunity to really strike a nerve with some of these players into teaching them not just how to be great ball players, but also how to be great, like, people. And so, like you were talking about, just all of that, just to say, I agree with what you just said.
Cheers, Jeff.
Cheers. But let's go ahead and jump into the professional world of sports. A lot of games happening right now, and it's great, and it's fantastic. The Tennessee Titans, slightly inconsistent, in my opinion, just with who we're going to see out on the field. Are we going to see a strong defense? not a strong defense. Is Derrick Henry going to run for over 100, or is he going to run for 70, right? Both still good, but you know what I mean. Titans take down the Ravens 30-29 this past weekend. Tannehill throws for 31, 259 yards, while Lamar Jackson throws 17 for 29 at 186 yards, and Lamar Jackson does have an interception.
So I think if you watch the game, it's more of what we've seen all season, especially from the Ravens, where they don't really have weapons in the pass game outside of Mark Andrews. And if you watch the game, the one throw that Lamar Jackson made, it was a corner route to Mark Andrews, maybe about 30 yards from the end zone, and he, it's against cover 2 high safeties. So if you don't know what cover 2 is, your corner's in a flat and your safety's deep over the top on each side. So normally the idea with a corner is you put it in the gap in between the corner and the safety, but the safety was cheating to that side, and so he led him back inside, and it was just easy touchdown. And it was the throw landed right here, and it was a 30-yard just a rainbow shot right into his hands. And I watched that throw, and I was like, this is why Lamar Jackson was the MVP last year. But not good numbers passing, but it kind of goes back. Mark Andrews is really his only weapon. Hollywood Brown isn't, or Marquise Brown, I should say, is not exactly what we think. I almost called him by his nickname, Hollywood.
Well, he does have Des Bryant now, and Bryant got in on the action this past weekend.
And there was one play towards the end of the game, I believe, in the end zone where Des Bryant came on like a quick slant, and he was NFL open, as you're going to be in the NFL. And it was not quite at the end zone, and Lamar just never looked at him. So, one of those things where maybe they're still trying to build chemistry.
Yep.
But I think Des Bryant showed he could still play, much like Antonio Brown is also showing that they both can still play. And I'm excited to see Des Bryant back on the field.
What's interesting to me is this is the second time this year that the Titans have went into overtime. And every time they go into overtime, they win. So, you hear some players say, man, if we just had a little more time, we would have won. And the Titans have really proven that because last time they went to the overtime, they played the Texans, and they won. So I think if the Titans were able to fit all of their successful play, good play, into 4 quarters, we'll see a little more consistency. As you mentioned, they're a little inconsistent. But one of my biggest questions, and Ashton, you touched on it a little, is Lamar Jackson, does he live up to the hype? Yes, he was MVP last year. I've heard from different people that, yes, he does live up to the hype, and then other people, they're like, no, he's a bust. They call him a running quarterback. I've heard, and I've seen his play, and he kind of emulates Michael Vick's game. He's a running quarterback. He's very athletic. But does he live up to the hype?
For me, I think he certainly does.
I think it's hard. I think yes.
I think you have to take it for what it is right now. You've got to think, this guy is just in his second year starting.
Yeah.
And it's always tough on a younger quarterback when, they're built on the run game. And their run game lately has not been the best outside of him and Gus Edwards occasionally. J.K. Dobbins looks like he's about to take over that backfield. Unfortunately, the Ravens are going to be without J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram on Thursday against the Steelers because both of them have tested positive for COVID. So it's going to be interesting to see now that it's a one-man backfield how that changes their dynamic on offense. Is it going to help? Is it going to hurt? Because for me, as a quarterback who they live strong by the read option in the RPO game, where you run a little bit, sometimes having all those guys rotating in, even though you're getting a lot of snaps, can make it a little – I'm not going to say inconsistent, but it makes it a little not consistent, if that makes sense. Just because, Mark Ingram, maybe he has a different way of lining up than Gus Edwards. And so you constantly have to be thinking about, okay, well, what is this? What is this going to be? What does this look like? How is he going to operate on this play? And it's just one more thing to think about when really you could be simplifying the offense and making it easy on Lamar. Not that I think he needs it. He came from a pro-style system in Louisville. So I think he was ready for it this year. I think a lot of the people that say I wouldn't say he's a bust. I think he's certainly been disappointing from where he was last year. But I think he's still got a lot of room to grow, especially as a passer, because as a runner, he's equal to where Michael Vick was at his peak. And as a thrower,
Yes.
I think he's at least
Good
equal,
point.
if not better.
I think Lamar Jackson is easily the best running quarterback in the league right now.
I think Kyler Murray's sneaking up there as well.
Kyler Murray is dangerous, but I think because of last year's experience, that gives Lamar the edge. But I think Kyler Murray, he's so young, so much to learn. But he definitely has an opportunity to kind of give Lamar a run for his money on that position. I think Dak Prescott could be a really good running quarterback. Well, not right now, but he could have been earlier this season. And there were many times that Dak liked to run the ball, but it's just I think that's more coaching on the Dallas Cowboys than it is.
And I don't really even see Dak as necessarily a running quarterback. I think he's a quarterback that's excellent who will kill you with his legs when he needs to.
That's true too.
I think of him kind of in the same vein as where, late 2000s Ben Roethlisberger, where Ben Roethlisberger wasn't known for running, but if you gave him 8 yards, he was going to get a first down on you.
Yes.
So I think Dak is more comfortable winning from the pocket, but I also think that he can run when asked to.
Well, speaking of the Cowboys get a win. So I just want to. I need cameras on me. I need cameras on me. Bree said that wouldn't happen.
Oh my goodness!
Bree said it couldn't be done.
I stand corrected. I did say that they wouldn't win a game after Dak got hurt, and here we are. They won a game.
They did win a game.
I'm eating crow over here.
Do you want me to read the stat lines? Because I kind of want to.
Yeah, whatever.
Andy Dalton throws 22 for 32, 203 yards. Not like crazy good numbers,
managed the game.
But quarterback numbers, right? 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Ezekiel Elliott had 21 carries, went 103 yards, and then Amari Cooper 6 receptions, 81 yards.
I think that the defense really set the tone early in the game. You had Donovan Wilson, Jalen Smith, DeMarcus Lawrence. They all sacked. They sacked the quarterback,
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
Cousins.
There you go. I believe that really set the tempo at the beginning of the game, and I think the momentum from defense went to offense, and I think they had a all right game.
Game?
Yeah,
I think it was all about that they managed to kind of bottle up Dalvin Cook. Adam Thielen scored 2 touchdowns, and Adam Thielen's going to get his.
Well,
but
Adam Thielen went 8 for 123, and then Dalvin Cook had 27 for 115. Those are still great numbers.
But that's bottling up Dalvin Cook from what he has been doing.
Mediocre.
That is kind of stopping Dalvin Cook from where he has been in past weeks, and especially coming up against the Cowboys defense, where it's like, they've kind of been, Trayvon Diggs, the joke name for him is slump buster. If you're a wide receiver and you're having a bad stretch of games, just play Trayvon Diggs and you'll have a big game.
There you go.
And but Trayvon, he's played well lately, and the entire Cowboys defense really kind of played well, even giving up 28 points. You watch the game and you're like, man, they played okay. Like, is this the same Cowboys that we saw last week? Well, what's going on here?
So the one thing that drives me crazy is DeMarcus Lawrence. I find him super inconsistent. He had one really good year a couple years ago. So I think actually probably last year. Had a really good year. A lot of hype coming into this year. Just not feeling him. Not this year anyway. But I think he has a lot of key moments for the Cowboys. I mean, he is I think he has the potential to become another DeMarcus Ware.
Sure.
That's how I see DeMarcus Lawrence.
I think he's always been a very strong pressure guy. So if you look at the advanced metrics of pressure rate, QB hits, things like that, he's always performed well. But from the stance of sack numbers, he's never produced that. And, sack numbers can be a little misleading anyway because, sack numbers are a team thing sometimes. But Alden Smith, for me, has been a great pickup for the Cowboys. Kind of a sneaky pickup. He was out of the league for a long time. He had a lot of outside things going on where he got caught with a bunch of, weapons at an airport, and he had drugs things going on. And he even said it himself. He's like, I had to grow up. I was a 25-year-old baby, basically. I had to grow up so I could keep doing what I love. And he has come in and played exceptional. He's still one of the fastest defensive linemen off the ball in the league.
There's a lot of times where players come into the league and they don't have that mentality.
They're just not ready.
And you're not ready. That even happens, even taking sports out of it. I mean, that happens in college.
Yep.
I mean, there's people who leave high school and go into the college world and just don't know how to do it.
They don't know how to cook for themselves or anything.
They don't know
like
how to
that.
do anything, right?
Funny story on that. I had a friend this week who I saw on his Snapchat story where he posted a picture of a box of hamburger helper, and he was like, hey, no one told me you had to buy the hamburger to go with the hamburger
Wow.
helper. And I was just like, are you serious? Did you think that ground beef came in the box with it? That makes no sense.
That's funny.
But I thought it's a microcosm of what you just said. It's
people,
especially in the NFL, you get these college guys that come in and, they're 20 years old, 21 years old, sometimes 19 in the case of Juju Smith-Schuster when he came in, and they get handed, here's $20 million. And, you're a kid who just got handed a couple $1 million, I would have gone crazy at that age.
Oh
like,
yeah,
It's
100%.
it's crazy because it's like it's a money creates a whole new world that you didn't have access to. So once you get handed your first rookie contract, you get that first check and you're like, wow, this is the kind of check I've only dreamt of. And now, like, no one can tell me no. Like,
Yep.
I can get whatever it's
Yeah.
the world literally at your
Mhm.
fingertips at that age. If you're not prepared, you have instances where you have NFL players who get in trouble for the slightest or for the craziest of things, and normal people were like, wow, like, I can't believe you're in the NFL and you're doing that. You're putting everything at risk.
It was like in the offseason, the Giants, their second round, I believe he was either a rookie or going into his second year, cornerback, got arrested for, like, aggravated robbery. Like,
yeah.
robbed someone at gunpoint. And I'm thinking, you're an NFL athlete. Like, why are you robbing people?
Yeah.
It's
I
crazy.
mean, I think that just starts with people spending all their money, and they don't realize that they've spent all their money.
Yeah,
Could be.
that's another one. Or we look at the instant where the NFL player snuck. He tried to sneak a girl into the
Oh,
hotel
yeah.
and dress her up as one of the players. And everyone else in my mind, I was like, you couldn't wait until you finished camp or whatever you guys were doing, ATOs, before you can just wait and then go to visit your girlfriend or whoever she may have been. Like, regular people think, why?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes they think, wow, I can get away with anything. And
Yeah.
Yep.
that's just what happens when you have that access or that amount of freedom and you're not used to it or you're not prepared.
Yeah, it's definitely Cowboys. I think are famous for having players who get in trouble.
Y'all have had a lot of them over
We've
the
had a
years.
lot. Randy Gregory.
Yep.
Man,
DeMarcus Ware got in trouble a
DeMarcus
couple
Ware
times
got
as well.
in trouble. Yeah. I mean, we had Pac-Man Jones for a
I
while.
love My dad loves Pac-Man Jones, if
Pac-Man
nothing other, just to
Jones
make
got
fun
in
of him.
trouble. I mean, they're man, oh man.
I
Hard
mean, you
times.
can go back, Michael Irvin,
Yeah. You can go back
Deion
all the
Sanders,
way. Yeah.
like a lot of players for the Cowboys.
Ezekiel Smith. I mean, Zeke's gotten in trouble twice now.
Yep.
But last thing about the Cowboys, they play the Washington team next week. Who do you have? Alex Smith is in on a hot streak right now.
Oh,
Short week for both teams.
Yep.
I don't really want to pick against the Cowboys.
Oh,
Cause
come
they've
on,
got
don't do it
much-
to me.
They've got much better weapons.
Don't do
on
it to me.
offense, But I mean, give me the Washington football team, the team formerly known as. I mean, I hear, like you said, Alex Smith's on a hot streak. They're not good by any means.
No, but
Neither
Alex-
are the Cowboys.
Neither are the Cowboys.
so
So this is going to be the Thanksgiving Day game.
it's incredible.
Oh, it's bad.
Andy Dalton, at the time and point, Andy Dalton is probably the best starting quarterback in the NFC East. That contains former NFL MVP candidate Carson Wentz, who has been abysmal this year if you've been watching him. He leads the NFL in fumbles and interceptions.
That's really bad. Bree, who do you got?
are you really asking me?
Oh, I'm really
I'm
asking
not
you.
going with the Cowboys.
I know she wouldn't.
So I'm going with Washington. I'm going to say by 14.
By 14.
I'm not going by that much. I'm
whoa.
calling Washington by a field goal.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I'm
going 14, and it's okay. We're in a group text, so I will text you guys on Thanksgiving just to
Don't
boast.
do that.
Don't do
Just to boast.
I
Hey,
do not.
guys.
I do not want to get turkey grease on my phone.
that. I'm going to be eating. All right, let's jump into the next game that we have for last week. Saints versus the Falcons. Taysom Hill is just an athlete.
You guys put this one in here just because of me, right?
Yes. Taysom Hill, 18 for 23, 233 yards. He rushed for 51 yards himself, had 10 carries and 2 touchdowns alone. Michael Thomas got in on the action, 9 receptions for 104 yards. But, I mean, I just can't. Taysom Hill is just so good.
So there was a lot of controversy this week surrounding this, especially in the world of fantasy football, because Taysom Hill was eligible to be played as a tight end in every league virtually if you're on the ESPN platform. And if you know anything about fantasy football, tight end is not good. Tight end sucks. Past the first 4 guys, your tight end, you hope he gets a touchdown, so he gets 6 points in a week. Tight end's that bad. And you just got to play a quarterback at tight end who scored you 24 points because he had 2 rushing touchdowns. And so it was a very large source of controversy this week. I thought Taysom Hill played well. I thought he managed the game very well. I thought he did more damage as a runner than a passer. I thought he was good as a passer, but I think it was funny. I believe it was Warren Sharp tweeted that, or no, it was Ryan McDowell, who's a Dynasty Fantasy Football guy. He tweeted that the Saints did an excellent job of recreating the 38-year-old Drew Brees' like lack of arm strength by having Taysom Hill try and throw deep. And it was one of those throws where he literally took like 2 like hop steps and launched it, put his entire body in the throw, and underthrew the guy by like 5 yards.
Wow.
On like a 50-yard throw. And so it's like you watch that and you're just like, oh, is this dude really an NFL quarterback?
Why not Jameis Winston?
Put famous Jameis in, baby.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Famous.
I was surprised. Like, once Drew Brees got hurt last week against the 49ers, they put Winston in to finish up the game from the second quarter to finish up the game. I was surprised that they didn't put Jameis in and let him start.
Hey, man, Flamus, he had that surgery. He had that vision corrective surgery in the offseason, right? And everyone made jokes about it. It's like, oh, maybe he just couldn't see down the field. And then his first game he plays after getting his vision fixed, he plays good. So I think there's legitimate, like, cause and effect here that he just had really bad eyesight and couldn't see that far down the field.
What?
I've never heard someone say famous Jameis.
You've never heard that?
No.
Wow,
I just thought that was hilarious.
He's actually one of the other college players who got in trouble a few times while he was at Florida.
Crab
But
legs.
yeah, yes, the crab legs. But looking more at Drew Brees, he suffered an injury with 11 fractured ribs and a collapsed lung. They said he didn't give a time to when he would be back, but people are estimating around the 20th when they play the Chiefs. Do you guys see him coming back ready to play? He said after he was sacked, his body just locked down, and he tried to fight through it. But
We're talking about Breeze.
Yes,
Yeah,
Drew
yeah.
Brees.
I think. Oof, that's a hard question. Because I know hearing them talking about it on the sports channels or whatever. I mean, he came out of that game when he got sacked. He went to the coach and told him that I could not perform.
He finished. Yeah, he finished, and he was taken out the second quarter.
Right. So I think it really just I can see him starting, but he has to be 100%. He knows he has to be 100%. So if he's not 100% now, he won't play.
Yeah, and every time they re-report the story, he's got more fractured ribs, right? It's up to like 11 now.
Yeah.
And there was
11.
one tweet where a guy said, "Is like Drew Brees up to 11 broken ribs. I didn't even know we had that many." And it's like if you've ever had broken ribs, like it's painful. Like it's very hard to breathe. And a lot of your throwing as a quarterback is done from your core, and so if you can't use your core muscles, it can make it very difficult to throw the ball.
I can't see him being ready by December 20th.
I don't either. But then again, it's football, and I've seen people come back earlier from worse.
I think if the Saints
Injuries.
are in a comfortable position in the playoff race, I think they certainly can be, considering they beat the Buccaneers twice now.
Well,
I
with
think that
Taysom
they
Hill,
sit him a
with-
little bit more.
Yeah, with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, I just think don't rush it. We saw that with, again, here comes the Cowboys reference. Tony Romo hurt his back, came back, hurt his back again, or collarbone, excuse me. So,
But at 41, your career is coming to an end. Do you sit out and wait till you're healthy enough to come back? Like, these are just the thoughts that I'm thinking. Like, do you rush back or do you just call it quits?
well, we're going to have to call it quits here in the studio because our time is up, and it's finishing our semester. Once again, Bree, thank you so much for joining us on the airwaves, and good luck with everything else that you plan on doing with your future career. Nathan, Joe, thank you guys so much for running the studio in the back, helping us make this show possible. And thank you for Doc V and David Ellison for giving us the knowledge and giving us the ability to do this show. And I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Ashton,
Gobble,
thank you for being
gobble.
here again. We will see you guys hopefully in the spring, possibly with a new cast. We don't know yet, but we will see you sometime in the spring. Have a good one.